Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3 here, and I have a pretty interesting top 10 list video to share with you guys today. As of late, I've been going through a little bit of a stressful time, so I just figured, in order to keep my mind off of all the craziness that has been surrounding my life, I need to get back into work and just keep myself preoccupied. So I asked a lot of you guys out there if you guys had any really interesting video ideas, and this is one of them. So before I begin, I would just like to thank this awesome subscriber of mine for sending me in your request. Thank you. So for this particular video, as you can tell from the title, I'll be going over my top 10 favorite games that I saw at E3 2018. Now obviously I wasn't there in person, but I was keeping track of all the announcements, and there were certainly a number of them for games coming out soon that I'm really excited about. So let's start off the list, starting off real simple with a game that we didn't really see too much of, but we did get an announcement of. And number 10 on my list is Doom Eternal. Now, I like the first Doom. I was always a Doom fan, even back in the 90s, and I really liked what they did with the recent reboot. So obviously a sequel was inevitable. Now obviously I'm a much bigger fan of Wolfenstein than Doom, but from what we can guess, if they just keep the gameplay the same, add a couple of enhancements, maybe add a little more depth to the story, then obviously it will be a high action, highly intense, badass game to play. I will be happy to own it and stream that sucker when I get my hands on it. But obviously we don't know too much about it. It was just announced, so hopefully at the next E3 we will see more of it, and maybe we'll even get an official release date. So that's why it's number 10 on this list. Going into number 9, I picked Kingdom Hearts 3. Now I know that some of you guys might be shocked that Kingdom Hearts 3 is so low on this list, but it is simply the matter that this game has been in development hell for so long. So many of us who have been Kingdom Hearts fans since the beginning have wanted this game to come out, and it's just at that point where, you know what, I don't even care that it's not an exclusive anymore. I just want this franchise to end, because I've always been more of a story-driven gamer, and without question, Kingdom Hearts has become the most convoluted story I think I've ever seen. I mean, this is supposed to be for children, and I don't even know how you could explain the plot. It is just all over the place. Now, don't get me wrong, the gameplay looks cool. The visuals are phenomenal. I'm really excited to get my hands on it and start visiting all these new worlds and killing all these Heartlesses with all these different weapons and all these different techniques and all these different abilities and all these different allies. I'm pumped up for that. But it's just the fact that this should have come out so much earlier. And the more I see this game, just the less of my anticipation is. I have no question that this game is going to be fun, but I really want this to be the final game in whatever storyline we're calling it, and for it to somehow make it make sense. And that is my concern. I'm afraid that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be one of those games that is just so confusing that I'm not even going to care about the story, and I just want to beat the game just because it's fun to play. And there's nothing wrong with playing a game just because it's fun, but for someone like me, having a good story always makes it have a much lasting impression on me, and I'm afraid that Kingdom Hearts 3 may not pull that off. But again, that's just my personal fears, but I'm still pumped up to get my hands on it when it comes out next year. Next on my list, in number 8, it is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, I have actually skipped the last number of Assassin's Creed games. I think like the last one chronologically I played was Rogue. I didn't play Unity. I didn't play Syndicate. I did not play Origins. But Odyssey looks really special. It looks like it's going to take place in an era that I have really wanted to see this franchise take into. Some of the directions and the creative choices that they're making for this game make it really stand apart, because I guess technically there aren't really assassins in this particular game, but I absolutely like the setting, I like the gameplay style, I like the kind of certain directions that they could go, and that just makes me wonder what they're going to do with this franchise. Although, since we're not really sure how this is going to tie into the whole Assassin's Templar Order, it kind of makes me wonder why isn't this just called another game. But gameplay, from what I saw at E3, looks incredible. Can't wait to get my hands on it, and hopefully it might revitalize my love for the franchise, because I've always been a fan of Assassin's Creed, at least up till 2. I didn't really like the first one. But heck, maybe this will bring it back for me. Number 7 on my list is Anthem. Anthem looks interesting because it, to me, kind of looks like the next Destiny, but hopefully done right. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like Destiny. I own both Destinies 1 and 2 and have spent hundreds of hours upgrading my Guardians. But I have to admit, it's kind of my interest towards Destiny has kind of faded. So having another game similar to that with a different style and a different direction, and now in a third-person system, which is, you know, personally my favorite type of games. I'm more of a third-person kind of fan, or, you know, over the shoulder than a first-person shooter. And just the overall look looks fascinating. This is absolutely the type of game that I hope has a good single-player story, as well as a very expansive and well-handled multiplayer or co-op system that I can play with my friends. And if Anthem can pull that off, and from what I've seen, it certainly can, this may end up being one of the best games that I play in 2019. But only time will tell. But I'm still really pumped up to get my hands on this. Going into number 6, it is Ghost of Tsushima. Now, I hope I said that right. Now, this is actually a game I actually saw at last year's PlayStation Experience when I believe it was first announced. This comes from Sucker Punch, so the folks who made the Infamous franchise, which is one of my favorite franchises of all time. And to see them want to take a samurai-style story but have it kind of be somewhat expansive is a really, really interesting idea. I don't think I've seen a game like this come out in some time. There's another like samurai franchise that came out during like the PlayStation 2 Xbox era. I'm trying to think of what the name is. It's escaped me, but I do recall playing it. But this just kind of looks like the next step. I'm a big fan of Japanese culture and samurais and all those good stuff. And yeah, I'm just fascinated to see what Sucker Punch can do when they kind of venture off from what they've been proven to be really good at. And if they can transfer that type of creativeness and, you know, enjoyment into this possible new franchise, then I think we have something really special on our hands. And yeah, I really want to hope that I can stream this sucker because it looks incredible. Just visually, it looks incredible. It looked awesome. Going into number 5, I have Death Stranding. And this one I was a little bit off about because this is being created by my all-time favorite video game director of all time, the legend and god himself, Hideo Kojima, who is obviously the creator of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. And after everything that happened between him and Konami, I've always wanted to know what could Hideo Kojima do past Metal Gear. I want this game to succeed, and we've been shown a lot, but a lot of it I don't quite understand, and I don't like to watch too many videos of people trying to explain it. I want to go into this game somewhat blind, but I am a little bit hesitant because we have seen very little actual exciting gameplay. This seems like it's going to have a very, very heavy emphasis on stealth. And coming from Hideo Kojima, that is a good thing because that's one of the defining elements of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. So I like seeing the element brought here. But I'm just a little bit curious. It might be a little bit too confusing to understand. I really hope that it's somewhat simplified. Now, I expect that it's going to be very, very in-depth. There's going to be a lot of really important elements. But just from what I've seen, it looks like this game is going to focus more on trying to create suspense than actual excitement. And I'm just a little bit hesitant about that. Now again, this is Hideo Kojima, so I'm not going to question it. If this is something that he's put a lot of time and a lot of heart into, then I trust him. But I am a little bit hesitant. But that is not going to stop my anticipation of wanting to get my hand on this game because I want this game to succeed so bad so I can see what other projects that Hideo Kojima will jump onto if this is successful, because this is a brand new studio. It has to succeed. If it fails, who knows what could happen, and I don't want it to fail. So that's why it's number 5 on my list. Going into number 4, I picked Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is without question my favorite solo Marvel superhero of all time, and I have enjoyed a lot of the most recent Spider-Man games like Web of Shadows and Shattered Dimensions and all those other great games, even going back to the N64 days with that really cool Spider-Man game. The ending with that final chase sequence was hard as hell, but from what I've seen of this game, it looks absolutely incredible. This has the potential of being the greatest Spider-Man game of all time. Very much on par with some of the Batman Arkham games, and I've actually heard a lot of people that have actually gotten their hands on it actually compare it to that. So that's gotten me really, really excited. Hopefully, it has a very, very compelling story. I've actually read in a number of magazines that they're actually doing a couple of really cool things with Mary Jane, which I'm really, really excited to get my hands on. And heck, this is even something that if they do have a collector's edition, which I do think they do for this particular game, I will certainly want to pick up, do an unboxing for, and hopefully stream this sucker, because heck, if you get me and Spider-Man together in a room, a lot of really fun things could happen. So that's why it's number 4 on my list. going into number 3 is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, this is to be the conclusion of the current reboot Tomb Raider brand, which, you know, officially made me a fan of the franchise, because up until the reboot of Tomb Raider, I was never a fan of Lara Croft on the Tomb Raider franchise. I just thought that she was just too overpowered and just not that interesting of a character. And they fixed that. They did a phenomenal job. In fact, I've openly stated this, that in a whole, I've actually enjoyed these first 2 rebooted Tomb Raider games more than all of the Uncharted franchise. And the Uncharted franchise is a phenomenal series, but I just had a bit more enjoyment with Tomb Raider. So seeing this game had me a little bit concerned, because conclusions to stories like this are always really hard to do. But if they can pull this off, if this is the definitive game that has Lara transform into the legend iconic Tomb Raider herself, which I think that the first 2 games have done an incredible job of building her up to, then we are in for one hell of a finale. And who knows what the Tomb Raider franchise will be after that. But everything I've seen from this game just screams epicness. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this game when it comes out later this year. And that's why it's number 3 on this list. Now, when it comes to number 1 and 2, I cannot believe I'm saying this, because they both came from the same company, which a few years ago I think everyone was kind of shitting all over them because of how terrible of a job they were handling their franchises. But they have seriously bounced back, and both of these games come from Capcom, so I'm sure some of you guys can know what's coming up. Number 2 on my list is Devil May Cry 5. Holy shit, this game looks intense. It is a proper sequel to the classic Devil May Cry franchise. It has been nearly a decade since we've had a real Devil May Cry game. We clearly don't count DMC as an official game. Any real Devil May Cry fan knows that, but the visuals of this game look incredible. Nero looks awesome. I love what they have done with the character. Dante's going to be back. Hopefully, there's a number of story elements they'll bring back. There's a possibility that Virgil, my all-time favorite Devil May Cry character of all time, might be coming back. So, my anticipation for this game is through the roof. I have the highest expectations for this game, and if it is able to bring Devil May Cry back to its former glory, then we are talking Game of the Year type levels of excitement for me. I cannot wait to get my hands on this, sir. And I know I've said that a lot throughout this video, but trust me, Devil May Cry has been one of my all-time favorite hack and slash franchises of all time, slightly below the God of War franchise. And just a chance to go back and actually expand on the story has me pumped up. But with that said, that now leads me into my number 1 most anticipated and favorite game that I saw at E3. Now, there was a lot of talk about this game, a lot of anticipation, a lot of rumors, but when we finally saw it, because Resident Evil 2, without question, has been like one of the, it has been one of the most iconic games that has ever been created that I wish I could love. Now, I like to call myself a Generation 2 Resident Evil fan. I'm someone who started playing Resident Evils 4, 5, and 6, Revelations 1 and 2, and all those other games. I cannot play those first couple of games. I'm sorry, the controls are abysmal. They are they make the game completely unplayable. And I know that some people have said, oh, they're not that bad. Trust me, they are that bad for me. But if there was one thing that I knew, is that if it wasn't for the controls, I know I would have absolutely loved Resident Evil 2. And if there was any game that I wish could be remade with the updated gameplay style, it would be this one. So now that I have finally been given the opportunity to play this legendary title in a fashion that I personally think is superior to anything that came before Resident Evil 4, means that this has the potential of being one of my most highly anticipated games that has ever been created. Perhaps even more so than the Final Fantasy VII remake, which we don't even know what's going on with that because we haven't really heard too much about it. But this has the potential of making Resident Evil reclaim its spot as my favorite survival horror franchise of all time, which as it stands right now, it's below the Dead Space franchise, despite the fact that the Dead Space franchise has been retired. But if Resident Evil 2 the remake can pull this off, this could really make this legendary title even more epic. And I have the highest expectation. In fact, this is ultimately probably going to end up being my most anticipated game of 2019, and it comes out in the beginning of the year. So, I'm sure me and many others can understand how much we want this game to succeed. And that is why Resident Evil 2, the remake, is my favorite game that I saw at E3 2018. So, that is my list, and I'd like to know what were some of the best games that you guys saw at E3. Share your list of everyone and else with me in the comments down below. And if you guys also have any ideas that you think would make for a great topics video or top list video, also share those ideas with me in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook with the links in the description to keep track of my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.